Previously on House of David.
This is my life, David.
Lord, mother of giants.
This cannot be done.
What would you offer them?
It all began in the days of the Great Rebellion.
Episode 6 opens with a stunning scene depicting the ancient story of fallen angels and mortal women falling in love, resulting in the birth of giants. Orpah recounts the tale to Goliath, telling him that he and his brothers are the last of the Nephilim. Goliath then asks, "If we are sons of God, why are we hiding in a cave?" In Philistine, one of the kings is summoned by Achish, the king of Gath. The summoned king is frustrated by Achish's belief in giants, dismissing them as fantasy and myth. Achish, however, firmly insists they are real. As Orpah and Goliath approach the city, Goliath pulling his mother's carriage, Achish comes out to welcome them. The other king is visibly shocked, and Achish commands that all the kings gather at the valley of Elah. Back in Gibeah, David sings to King Saul while Princess Michal listens. Merab enters and speaks about their duties as princesses, expressing her sorrow for their brother Eshbal. Michal confides that she has seen a different side of David, while Merab reminds her that women like them are merely ladders for men to climb in pursuit of their ambitions. King Saul shares stories from his life before becoming king, when he was just a donkey shepherd like David. He tells David that anything is possible. Elsewhere, a servant brings the boy Reuben to Doeg in exchange for a coin. Reuben begins to describe the night Samuel visited King Saul. In Philistine, King Achish presents Goliath with a sword and shield. Goliath gratefully accepts and begins sparring with Philistine soldiers, easily overpowering them with his unmatched strength. Pleased at first, Achish later discovers that Orpah's true plan is to make Goliath ruler over all lands after the war and demand complete loyalty from the kings. Achish refuses. As Orpah leaves, she warns him, "Once you awaken the giants, they seldom go back to sleep." At the palace, King Saul meets with his council to discuss the Philistine army's latest movements. Saul insists on attacking first, but Abner recommends a defensive approach. Enraged by their caution, Saul declares he has overcome greater odds with God behind him. But as he speaks, he realizes God's presence is no longer with him. He storms out, and Jonathan follows, warning him about the giants. Saul, angered by his son's fear, denounces the weakness of his sons and advisers, vowing to prove his strength. Meanwhile, Michal summons David and confronts him about keeping secrets. David pleads with her to leave the palace and run away with him, but she refuses to surrender to her emotions. She confesses that she loves him, but knows they can never be together. As Goliath and Orpah return to the valley, Doeg appears, claiming that he knows another way to get what the kings want. Back in Gibeah, Queen Ahinoam and the witch Besai attempt to use black magic to heal King Saul's unrest. At the same time, David decides to flee the palace. As he searches for Michal one last time, Eliab finds him, grabs him by the neck, and forces him to return home. Jonathan intervenes, saying David is there to bring peace to Saul. Eliab, however, declares that David has been a curse to their house and prays he is not part of Saul's destiny. Hearing Saul's shouting, they rush to his chamber and discover Besai performing a ritual, immediately stops it and pushes her out. Before leaving, Besai looks at David and says, "You caused all this," then turns to Jonathan and says, "You will never be king." Back in the giant's cave, one of Orpah's sons challenges her decision, but she quickly reasserts her authority, warning that they must find a new home now that their location has been discovered. Later, Saul tends to David's injured finger, wounded from playing the harp too long. Speaking as if to his son Jonathan, Saul confesses his fear of losing his crown. Meanwhile, as Orpah brings food to her sons, she is murdered by Doeg, who reveals that he is from the House of Saul. Hearing her scream, Goliath rushes to find her dying. Before her final breath, she tells him to avenge her death upon the House of Saul. The next morning, Merab catches David attempting to leave the palace. Sensing his true love for Michal, she decides to test his feelings by trying to seduce him, but David remains loyal, confirming that his heart belongs only to Michal. Jonathan sets off to find Samuel on his father's behalf, while David quietly leaves the city. Upon reaching Mount Sinai, struck by a vision. In it, King Saul is killed in battle, and Jonathan dies alongside him. As he emerges from the vision, Samuel mistakes him for a threat and attacks, only realizing it is Jonathan afterward. During their conversation, Jonathan recalls Samuel's past loyalty to his father and asks why Saul is cursed. Samuel explains that Saul lost his way and began to see himself as God. He adds that the curse came by God's command and that he has no power to change it. When asked about Jonathan's own vision, Samuel says he cannot confirm if it will come to pass, but advises him to journey back through the great valley, where he sees great darkness ahead. Later, in a delirious hallucination, Saul envisions Goliath approaching with a sword, preparing to kill him. He cries out for David to calm him, but is informed that David has already left. Meanwhile, Hebrew soldiers camping near the mountain hear heavy footsteps approaching. Terrified, they look up to see Goliath emerge. At dawn in the village, Jesse and Ava see David returning while tending the sheep. They warmly welcome their son and brother. Elsewhere, Jonathan rides out and sees the Philistine army advancing. He returns to warn the palace, but the news has already arrived. The kingdom prepares for war, and Saul enters, ordering the tribes to be summoned and ready for battle. Back in Gath, Goliath walks into Achish's palace, kneels and declares he will kill them all.
Let me kill them all.